The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Marcus Chen's corner office like a relentless reminder of everything he'd lost. At 52, he commanded a tech empire worth billions. Yet tonight at Christmas Eve he sat alone in his glass tower, watching the city lights blur through tears he refused to shed. His wife had left him 3 years ago, taking their daughter. His parents were gone. His friends had become employees, and his employees had become strangers. Success, he'd learned too late, was the loneliest achievement of all. The mahogany desk held nothing but a half-eaten turkey sandwich from the deli downstairs and a bottle of whiskey he'd been nursing since noon. Outside, families hurried through the storm, clutching packages and children, rushing toward warm homes filled with laughter he could only imagine. Marcus loosened his silk tie and leaned back in his leather chair, wondering when winning had started feeling so much like losing. The elevator chimed, breaking his reverie. Strangely, security should have locked down the building hours ago. He heard small footsteps in the hallway, whispers that sounded almost like prayers. Then came the gentlest knock on his door. "Come in," he called, expecting to see the night janitor. Instead, 2 little girls appeared in his doorway, perhaps 8 and 9 years old, with dark hair plastered to their heads from the rain. Their clothes were clean but patched, their shoes worn thin. They held hands tightly, the younger one hiding slightly behind her sister. "I'm sorry, mister," the older girl said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We saw your light on. We're really hungry, and Mama said never to beg," but she swallowed hard, gathering courage. "May we have your leftovers?" Marcus's heart lurched. These children had somehow made it past security, climbed 43 floors, all for half a sandwich. But it was when he looked into their eyes that the world tilted on its axis. The older girl's gaze held a dignity that poverty couldn't diminish, a fierce protectiveness for her sister that reminded him of someone he'd forgotten himself, decades ago, standing in a similar doorway, making a similar plea. "Of course," he said softly, rising from his chair. The girls flinched slightly at his movement, and he realized how he must appear a towering figure in an expensive suit, master of this gleaming domain. He knelt down to their level. "What are your names?" "I'm Sophia," the older girl said. "This is Elena. We don't want to cause trouble. We just There's no trouble," Marcus interrupted gently. "Tell me, how did you get up here?" Sophia's eyes darted away. The security man was sleeping. "We took the stairs. We've been walking all day, and Elena's tired, and we saw your light." "Where's your mother?" "She's sick," Sophia whispered. "Really sick?" "She's in the hospital, and they say she might not." Her voice cracked, but she straightened her shoulders. "We're staying with Mrs. Rodriguez downstairs, but there's not much food, and we didn't want to ask for more." Elena tugged on her sister's sleeve and whispered something in Spanish. Sophia nodded and looked back at Marcus. "Elena wants to know if you're the king of this building, despite everything." Marcus smiled, at the first genuine smile he'd managed in months. "Something like that." "Are you too hungry for more than just a sandwich?" Both girls nodded eagerly. "Well then, let me make some calls." What happened next would be talked about in the Chen Industries building for years to come. Marcus didn't just share his sandwich, he ordered a feast from the finest restaurant still open on Christmas Eve. While they waited for the food, he learned that Sophia was in 3rd grade and wanted to be a doctor like the ones helping her mother. Elena was in 2nd grade and drew pictures of angels, which she showed him proudly from a crumpled notebook she carried. As they ate together on the floor of his museum, Marcus having abandoned his desk for this unusual picnic, the girls told him about their life. Their father had died 2 years ago in a construction accident. Their mother cleaned offices at night and hotels during the day until she collapsed last week. The girls had been shuffled between neighbors and relatives, trying to be invisible, trying not to be a burden. Mama always says to have dignity, Sophia explained, carefully folding her napkin. She says being poor doesn't mean being without pride. Your mother sounds like a wise woman, Marcus said, thinking of his own mother, who'd worked 3 jobs to keep food on their table when he was Sophia's age. Are you lonely? Elena asked suddenly, her innocent question piercing straight through his carefully constructed defenses. The question hung in the air like incense. Marcus looked around his pristine office, with its awards and accolades, its expensive art and leather-bound books he never had time to read. Yes, he admitted. Very lonely. Elena reached over and patted his hand with her small one. It's okay. We're lonely too, but we have each other. Maybe you can have someone too. That's when Marcus made a decision that would change 3 lives forever. The next morning, Christmas Day, he was at the hospital before visiting hours officially began. He'd made calls, pulled strings, consulted with the best specialists money could buy. Maria Gonzalez, the girl's mother, lay pale and thin in the charity ward, but her eyes blazed with the same fierce dignity he'd seen in her daughter's. Mr. Chen, she said when he introduced himself. My girls told me about your kindness. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me, Marcus said. Your daughters gave me something I'd lost. They reminded me what courage looks like. What family means. Over the following weeks, Marcus moved Maria to the finest private medical facility in the city. He hired the best doctors, specialists who confirmed what their charity hospital had missed. Maria's condition was serious but treatable with proper care and medication. While she recovered, the girls stayed in a beautiful apartment Marcus provided, visited daily by a kind housekeeper who'd become like a grandmother to them. But Marcus's involvement went deeper than financial support. He found himself stopping by every evening after work, helping with homework, listening to stories about school, drawing angels with Elena, and discussing Sophia's dreams of becoming a doctor. For the first time in years, he left the office while the sun was still shining. On Valentine's Day, Maria was declared fully recovered. The doctors said it was remarkably the combination of excellent medical care, reduced stress, and her daughter's happiness had worked better than any medicine alone. As spring arrived, Marcus faced a choice. He could step back now, having fulfilled his good deed. Or he could acknowledge what these 3 remarkable women had become to him, the family he'd never had the wisdom to cherish before. I have a proposition, he told Maria one evening as they watched the girls play in the apartment's garden. I'd like you to work for Chen Industries as head of our new family support program. The pay is excellent, the hours are reasonable, and there's something else. He turned to face her. I'd like us all to be a family, if you'll have me. Maria's eyes filled with tears. Marcus, you saved our lives. No, he said softly. You saved mine. 2 little girls knocked on my door asking for leftovers, and instead they gave me everything I didn't even know I was missing. A year later, Marcus stood in that same corner office, no longer alone. Photos of Sophia's science fair victories and Elena's artwork covered his desk. The sound of laughter echoed through the halls as his family visited him at work. The rain still fell against those floor-to-ceiling windows, but now it sounded like music instead of mourning. Sometimes the greatest gifts come in the smallest packages, carried by the tiniest hands, asking for nothing more than our leftovers and offering in return the feast of human connection that money can never buy.